It is May 18th, 1992. The chairmen of 22 English football clubs are gathered in a room to vote on a television deal. The old league, the Football League, had been selling TV rights for years. The BBC and ITV had shared the rights for decades. The annual fee for showing top-flight English football on television was £2 million a year. £2 million for the entire league, every game, every club split between them. That number is about to become completely irrelevant. By the end of this meeting, those same rights will have been sold for £304 million. Not per year, total, over 5 years, but that is still a 3,000% increase on what the game had been worth to television the year before. And that is just the beginning. To understand what happened in 1992, you have to understand what English football looked like before it. It was a mess, a genuine, structural, financially broken mess. The stadiums were crumbling. Hillsborough had happened 3 years earlier, 97 people dead in a stadium that was a disaster waiting to happen. And most grounds across the country weren't far behind it. Hooliganism had driven families away from matches throughout the 80s. English clubs had been banned from European competition for 5 years after the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985. The top players were leaving for Italy, leaving for Spain, leaving for leagues that paid more and offered more prestige because English football had stopped being prestigious. The top clubs were furious. They were generating the product, the talent, the history, the brand, and they were sharing the television money with clubs in the lower divisions of the Football League. The revenue was pooled, redistributed. The big clubs were subsidizing everyone else and receiving in return a fraction of what they believed they were worth. So they broke away. 22 clubs from the old First Division formed a new entity, the FA Premier League, that would negotiate its own television deal, keep the money among its own members, and run its own affairs. The Football League could not stop them. The FA controversially backed the breakaway. And in the spring of 1992, Rick Parry, the Premier League's first chief executive, sat across from television executives and began the negotiation that changed everything. ITV had been the live broadcaster of Football League matches since 1988. They had paid £44 million for 4 years of rights. They expected to renew. They made a bid of £34 million per year, a meaningful increase on what they'd been paying, and they were confident it would be enough. It wasn't. On the other side of the table was BSkyB, a satellite broadcaster formed by Rupert Murdoch's merger of Sky Television and British Satellite Broadcasting. BSkyB was losing money. It needed something that would persuade British households to pay a monthly subscription for a satellite dish and a package of channels they couldn't get anywhere else. It needed something unmissable, something people would pay for. Murdoch identified football as the weapon, not just a product. A weapon, his word. He would later describe sport as a battering ram for his pay TV business. The Premier League, newly formed, exclusively available, the top flight of the country's most popular sport, that was the battering ram he needed. BSkyB bid £304 million for 5 years of exclusive live rights. ITV, caught off guard by a number they hadn't expected from a broadcaster most people didn't yet take seriously, couldn't match it. The vote was held. The deal passed 14-6. Liverpool and Manchester United both voted in favor of ITV and still lost. The Premier League era had begun, and with it, a financial revolution that would reshape not just English football, but the entire global game. Here is what the money did in the first decade. Before 1992, the best players in the world went to Italy. Serie A was the destination league. Gullit, Van Basten, Rijkaard at Milan, Maradona at Napoli. The Italian clubs paid the wages and the prestige followed the wages. English football watched from the outside. After 1992, English clubs had money, real money, the kind that could compete for real players. Eric Cantona arrived at Manchester United months into the first Premier League season. Alan Shearer became the world's most expensive player when Newcastle signed him for £15 million in 1996. Dennis Bergkamp came to Arsenal, Gianfranco Zola to Chelsea. The league that had been hemorrhaging talent to Europe began slowly and then rapidly to pull talent toward it instead. The stadiums rebuilt themselves. The Taylor Report, commissioned after Hillsborough, had demanded all-seater stadiums across the top two divisions. The Premier League money funded the rebuilding. The decrepit grounds of the 80s became modern arenas. The families came back. The corporate hospitality arrived. The matchday experience became something that could be sold at a premium, and it was sold at a premium, and the revenue stacked on top of the television revenue, and the compound effect began. Meanwhile, Sky was doing something just as important as broadcasting the games. It was producing them differently. Sky brought American production techniques to English football. Multiple cameras, slow motion replays, pre-match analysis, post-match breakdowns, the presentation of football as an event rather than a match. It made the Premier League feel bigger than it had felt before. And because it felt bigger, it was worth more. And because it was worth more, the next deal was larger. By the 2016 to 19 cycle, Sky and BT together paid £5.136 billion for 3 years of domestic rights, £1.712 billion per season. That is compared to the £2 million per year the entire Football League had been receiving before 1992. The growth over roughly 25 years was not incremental, it was exponential. Each deal larger than the last, each cycle attracting more competition between broadcasters, each round of competition driving the price higher. Then came the international rights. And this is where the Premier League's financial dominance became truly global. The domestic rights, what UK broadcasters pay, are only half the story. The international rights are what the rest of the world pays to show Premier League matches to their own audiences. And the rest of the world, it turns out, wants the Premier League badly. The Premier League is now broadcast in 212 territories to 643 million homes, with a potential TV audience of 4.7 billion people. It is the most watched sports league on earth, and every one of those 212 territories is paying for the right to show it. The 2025 to 2029 broadcast cycle combines £6.7 billion in UK domestic rights with £6.5 billion in international rights, a total of approximately £13.2 billion or $16.7 billion, making it the most valuable football league in the world by broadcast revenue at roughly £3.84 billion annually, more than La Liga, the Bundesliga, and Serie A combined, more than all three of Europe's other major leagues combined, from a league that was worth £2 million a year in television rights 30 years ago. But here's the part of the story that goes beyond the broadcast deals. The Premier League's genius, the structural decision that separated it from every other league in Europe, was collective selling. In Spain, Barcelona and Real Madrid negotiate their own television deals individually. Historically, this meant that the two biggest clubs captured an enormous share of the total television revenue, and the smaller clubs received significantly less. The gap between the top and the bottom of La Liga in television income was vast. Atletico Bilbao and Deportivo La Coruña were not competing in the same financial universe as the two giants, and the product suffered for it. The Premier League sells its rights collectively. Every club gets a share, not an equal share. The clubs that finish higher and appear on television more receive more, but a share. Even Southampton, who finished last in the 2024/25 season, received £106.7 million from TV rights alone. The champions collected £176.4 million. The bottom club in the Premier League received more in television money last season than almost any club in La Liga outside the top two. That financial floor is what makes the Premier League competitive in a way that Serie A and La Liga aren't. Any club can buy players. Any club can compete. The unpredictability, Leicester winning the title, Brentford surviving, any number of promoted sides punching above their weight, is not an accident. It is a function of the revenue distribution model. And the competitiveness is what makes the product worth watching. And what makes the product worth watching is what makes the broadcast rights worth 13.2 billion pounds. The structure feeds the product. The product feeds the price. The price funds the structure. It is a machine that, since 1992, has not stopped turning. The consequences extend beyond England. They extend to every league that has to compete with the Premier League for players and for attention. In August 2024, Premier League clubs spent double the transfer fees of Europe's other top four leagues combined, with Serie A just under 1 billion pounds, followed by League One at 721 million pounds, the Bundesliga at 596.5 million pounds, and La Liga at 555.6 million pounds. Double. All four of them combined. The Premier League's ability to spend is not a reflection of better management or smarter scouting. It is a reflection of a broadcast revenue base that no other league can currently match. When a talented 22-year-old in France or Germany or Portugal is weighing their options, the Premier League's financial infrastructure is in the room whether an English club is bidding or not. The wages that can be offered, the signing bonuses available, the commercial opportunities that come with playing in the world's most watched league, these tilt decisions that might otherwise go elsewhere. The best players in the world now tend to pass through English football at some point in their careers, not exclusively, but disproportionately, which makes the league better, which makes the broadcast rights worth more, which makes the wages higher. The loop has been running for 30 years, and it is still accelerating. It started with a vote. 22 chairmen in a room, 14-6 in favor of a satellite broadcaster most people had never paid attention to, a £304 million deal that looked enormous in 1992 and looks from this distance like the undervalued opening chapter of something nobody fully anticipated. The battering ram worked. Sky got its subscribers. Murdoch got his foothold. The Premier League got its money. And English football, the game that had been crumbling in 1989, banned from Europe in 1985, losing its best players to Italy throughout the 80s, became, in 30 years, the most financially dominant sporting competition on earth. The next broadcast deal runs to 2029. The one after that will almost certainly be larger. The vote was 14-6. That is all it took.